Welcome back, future Grandmasters. Today we're going to be looking at a game from the year 1887 between Amos Byrne, a very famous player from London at the time, one of the strongest players in London, against William Pollock. William Pollock's a bit less known. He was the Irish champion in the late 1800s. Not as strong as Byrne in most of their matchups, but in this case, he had a very nice showing, and we're going to take a look at this very interesting, very open game. So, without further ado, we have Amos Byrne playing e4. Pollock responds e5 and knight c3. This is the Vienna. Knight f6, f4. So this is the Vienna gambit. Now the top move is to counter in the center. This is the Vienna main line, the Vienna gambit main line. d5. And now it's most common nowadays to see a capture of one of the pawns in the center, either the f pawn or the d pawn. E3 was played by Byrne. This is okay, but nowadays computer show there's one clear good line for black, which is to simply capture. If this is recaptured, black's just enjoying a slightly better game. Black's king is safe, whereas white's is sort of opened up on this f-file here. It's a nice, comfortable game for black. And if you try to attack the knight, we can simply counter. And this is just also better for black here. So, okay. Pollock does not capture on the f-pawn. Instead, plays bishop b4. A logical move, but so now the next few moves are kind of forced theory. The e5 pawn is hanging, and the white pawn captures. And there's a kind of a thematic idea when the opponent's king opens up the f-file early. This sort of diagonal is kind of weak, and we can actually sacrifice the knight. White takes the sacrifice, and then bring the queen over to check. Now, the computer gives this position as 0.0. The computer says that both sides should just opt to take the draw. And there is a draw here, simply a repetition. Well, we can start by capturing the knight, and then the repetition would look like this. This is the repetition. Any other move by white, for instance, trying to block it, would just be worse due to this fork. And now black is better. So the computer nowadays suggests to simply repeat the position. That's why this E3 variant, this is termed the Steinitz version variant of the Vienna opening with the pawn structure like this is not as commonly played anymore. But okay, Pollock is feeling ambitious. It's a casual game and goes bishop. So bishop captures, and now bishop delivers the check. Okay. Knight to f3 defends the check, and keep in mind we are still down a full piece as black, right? We sacrificed our knight, and we did not take the repetition. Instead, we're going to try to win here. Now, okay, this knight is pinned. This knight, we need to remember, is also attacking our queen. So if this bishop ever leaves, our queen would be hanging. Now, okay, we can PP on the PP by put pressure on the pinned piece, capturing on e4. And the very thematic and nice defensive idea by white, queen to d4. So a few things here. Of course, this pawn is now under attack. And capturing the knight, although it does actually come with check, suddenly black is losing another piece because of the pin on black's queen. The bishop cannot escape and will be captured. White is completely winning in this line. So we can't capture. However, we need to somehow defend this, and also we can't. We need to maintain the pin on the knight, otherwise our queen would be hanging. So bishop h5 is a nice idea. It sort of maintains a defense on the pawn. It keeps this pin going. White plays king e3, stepping the king towards the center. A little scary, but importantly, The knight used to be pinned, now it's not, and we remember the knight was staring into our queen, so we need to do something about that. Also, there's 2 attackers and only 1 defender on this pawn. So we have to resolve the fact that our queen is hanging, this pawn is hanging, and we're still down a full piece. Here, Pollock very sharply plays bishop captures, and again, this is just a completely drawn position. White should recapture here, and now black takes the perpetual. Well, white has no options except here, and now this is simply a perpetual. There are no other squares for the black king to go. Anything else other than moving backwards would be total suicide, such as this. This is mate in 1, because the queen cuts off this line, pawn cuts off this line, queen cuts off this line. So there's another repetition there, that, and yet again, the game should just simply end in a draw. Instead, white decides to play queen a5, queen a4 check, and is immediately losing. So why is this so bad? Well, white's king is still in the center. The material is even, but of course black has a piece hanging. The issue is that you typically, regardless of whether your king is in the center or not, you don't want to allow your opponent to develop their pieces with tempo, right? So the king is under check. Of course, there's a few ways to defend it, but the most logical, the most straightforward, the most common sense one is the best, and it's simply knight c6. Knight c6 develops our knight, clears our king to castle this direction if we want, or to castle this direction. And importantly, this knight is already very active. I mean, once the pin is gone, this pawn will be under attack. Bishop b5 is played. Now, again, the idea, I guess, was that once this is captured, the queen will be forking the king and the rook here. The king will have to step up and also be quite open. So there are some ideas, but this is suddenly white has overestimated the strength of this attack quite severely and should have just taken the perpetual, because now black has a very crucial tempo and needs to make this tempo count. The king is in the center. Yes, there's tension on the knight, but that's not the most important necessarily factor, given that it's black's move. This bishop is hanging. However, the king is quite exposed, and a very timely queen check, and suddenly black covers this square, black covers this square. This square is out of bounds because it's on the diagonal. This square is out of bounds. This square, of course, cannot go through. That leaves only one forced move for white. And now we can capture with check. Again, forced. Okay, now it does appear that the checks have run out. The bishop defends this, so we can't swing the queen over to check. We don't want a repetition, obviously, because here black, although of course you don't have the evaluation bar in real life, the evaluation is plus 10 black, and it feels that way because black's king is not very threatened at the moment, whereas white's king is completely in the center and swarmed by black pieces. So the next move is sort of the move of the game, I think, for me. I really like this next move. And it's, for some reason, not even the engine's top move, but I really like this next move, and that's castle. Well, there's the position repeats once, and then we have long castle. This is so crucial because this rook now cuts off a huge amount of squares that the white king could have possibly attempted to access. This knight is no longer going to be captured with check. In fact, the next move, white does capture the knight. There's actually not really much for white to do. There's not really any way to defend this position. And now the mating sequence can commence. So queen g5, king moves back. Now there's a couple of different ways to proceed, but one of the strongest is rook check, sacrificing the rook, and the queen recaptures with check, And now the king is isolated from the rest of his pieces. Well, we can see that if we check with the queen here, the king has 2 dovetails over here that the king can escape to. So one option is actually to just remove the ability of the king to escape via the dovetails. Any move like this is going to be lost, so this is already completely losing for white. Instead, the check is played first and then g5. Now, if white escaped here, which is sort of the best way to prolong the game, black should continue by, again, cutting off squares this way. Instead, white moves his king forward into enemy territory where, of course, at this point, it should be quite clear there's absolutely no way to survive this. White's king is going to be swarmed by black pieces and checkmated. A couple different options here. Check here is very strong. Also very good is this. And now queen swings down with check. This pawn is captured, and the king's on a white square, so we can bring the bishop in with tempo. And from here, we can notice which squares, all 3 of these squares are covered by black. So, and the king is on a dark square, so the queen can check on the dark square. King has only 1 legal move, and now because this square is covered, we can use the bishop's diagonal to provide support and deliver the checkmate here. So a very nice win by Pollock. Very instructive to see how overpressing the advantage when you don't really have much to back up your attack might be a bad idea. But again, a very interesting opening, very, very sharp opening. And yeah, I hope that you found this game entertaining and instructive. Thank you very much for tuning in. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.